Okay, I think we'll wait maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, then we'll get started. Is that okay? We'll get started in 1 more minute. So welcome to all of you who have joined us so far. Okay, we will get started. So welcome everyone to our webinar entitled Integrated Self-Help Group Model for Enhancing Resiliency Among Women in the War-Affected Zone. So this is our fifth webinar in this series on gender, equity, mobility, sustainability, initiatives from the Global South. So before we get started, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. Since this is a webinar, your audio will be on mute during the hour. If you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, use the chat function at the bottom of your screen. For any logistical issues, please send a message to Taylor Dorsey, who's our co-host, using the chat function, again, at the bottom of your screen. Finally, please enter your name in the chat box and your affiliation, because we'd love to welcome you by name. So my name is Chrisanne Naransky, and I will be the moderator for today's session. This webinar series is being co-sponsored by the U.S. nonprofit Friends of Kalangarai and Adelphi University. Friends of Kalangarai supports the community-based programs of Kalangarai, which is an NGO that serves widows, abandoned women in South India with community-based programs in microcredit loans, self-help groups, and leadership training, among other things. So this series of 6 webinars features experts leading innovative programs that focus on poverty, women's rights, environmental justice, and socioeconomic development in South Asia. The webinars will focus on the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 5 to achieve gender equality and empower all women. Despite our efforts to educate and economically empower marginalized women in the Global South, there is still extensive work to be done. According to the UN reports, gender inequities are still deep-rooted in every society. Women suffer from the lack of access to sustainable work and gender wage gaps. Many are denied access to basic education and healthcare and are victims of violence and discrimination. Furthermore, they are underrepresented in political and economic decision-making processes. Despite these discouraging reports on reaching the Sustainable Development Goals, there are numerous initiatives making progress in empowering and immobilizing women and girls. So the S in the acronym GEM stands for sustainability. When examining the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, all of them address some aspect of sustainability, namely dimensions of climate change, water, food and land, and environmental health. As we move forward with implementing our programs to address gender equity, we need to think about how we can integrate gender equity and empowerment within these dimensions of sustainability. They're all very interrelated. It is hoped that these webinars will help us to further understand the complex interactions amongst these dimensions and explore how policy and social activism can build synergies between them. Now it is my pleasure to hand the microphone over to Dr. Gokul Mandayam, who is a professor at the School of Social Work at Rhode Island College and also a board member of Friends of Kalangarai.
Thank you, Dr. Nuransky. Welcome all to the webinar. Let me introduce our speaker, Ms. Shamila Shivakumaran. She is a doctoral student at the University of Texas at Arlington in School of Social Work. Her research interests include social work with groups and communities, community theater, women, and empowerment. She is a social work professional who received her Master of Social Work from the Madras Christian College in South India and her Bachelor of Arts from the University of Jaffna in Sri Lanka. As part of her master's program, her thesis was on the psychosocial challenges and coping strategies of women-headed households in war-affected areas in Sri Lanka. She herself is from the northern part of Sri Lanka and belongs to the Tamil ethnic minority group that suffered 30 years of civil war that ended in 2009 with massive destruction. After her master's in social work in India, she returned to Sri Lanka and was interested in finding out more about the difficulties faced by the Tamil women and how to support them. So since then, she started working on livelihood projects that were designed to empower women in war-affected communities. So I will turn it over back to Ms. Sivakumaran to take it away. Take it away, Ms. Sivakumaran. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kogel, for your beautiful introduction. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. It's my honor to share my work with a community that are interested to serve as a social workers in the area of women empowerment and even related to social issues globally. Okay. Thank you, Taylor. So today, I plan to present one of my projects that I worked in the war-affected area was integrated self-help group model for enhancing resiliency among women in the war-affected zone in Sri Lanka. So just I thought of introducing Sri Lanka. So the population is 21 million, and this predominantly the majority population is Sinhalese and minorities Tamil and Muslims. So the majority Sinhalese follow Buddhism and other religions like Christianity, Hinduism, Islam also exist. As other countries, Sri Lanka also under British rule until the independence in 1948. So as history says that during the British rule, that the Tamil in Sri Lanka got an opportunity to work as government officials in their government, and they were really favored by the British government to give more opportunities in providing educational institution to enhance Tamil knowledge and skills. So since they left the country, this kind of discrimination or favored treatment really created a tension between Sinhala majorities and Tamil in Sri Lanka. So the Sinhala majority wanted to take their power. So the conflict started more visible after the British rulers left the country. So the causes for civil war, in order to protect their power or come to power, the first thing the single official who were in the power, they introduced the Sinhala only Act in 1956. That means that Sinhala language is declared as a one and only language. So that indirectly started eliminating those Tamil who were serving as a government official. So they have to return back to the education to, educate themselves and enhance their language ability to in order to serve in government sectors. And then the name of standardization of education, they introduced a policy that requires Tamil students to achieve higher exam scores than the Sinhala counterparts in order to be admitted to the Sri Lankan universities. So because in Sri Lanka, we have all the public universities we had. So in order to get into the university, we have to have a certain stat score or the cutoff marks. So this standardization policy made it tough for the Tamil students that time. So this mainly affected Tamil young population at that time. So they started thinking about the separation of the nation for the Tamil minorities. Though there were different opinion among Tamils, at last, majority of the Tamil minorities supported for the separation of nation. This was accelerated by the July riots against Tamil in Colombo. So many of the Tamil were killed by the majority Sinhalese. So then from that, the civil war started. It's lasted until 2009, as Dr. Kogul mentioned, with the massive destruction of men and material loss. So this was the background. So the consequences of war this really impacted, as common in any disaster situation, it greatly impacted women in those areas. So one of the consequences of war, large number of women-headed households, and then person with disability, and there were enforced disappearance, still not answers where those people are. So homelessness, separation, loss of livelihood, and so on. Multiplication of role for women because they lost their husband and they have to care elderly people and disabled people. So it is multiply their burden. Especially these population had suffered with the traumatic experience, not only from the direct, impact of war, but psychologically they had gone through lots of issues during the displacement and living in the camps and, living under military control. So these women really undergone physical and sexual abuses during the displacement and even after returning, immediately after return to their places. And in the later consequences that these people, because they lost their livelihood and they have to start from the zero, they have really had kind of a um, uh, social ill behaviors and destructive behavior among these war affected communities, like alcoholism, domestic violence, and unidentified psychosocial issues. So why we needed this integrated model? So immediately after war ended, government and non-governmental organizations started investing for livelihood opportunities. Of course, that is the immediate need for the community. However, the late evaluation report revealed that they couldn't achieve the expected outcome due to various reasons. One of the reasons was this community was really suffering psychologically, and in the I mean that immediately after war, the government didn't allow organization to intervene with psychosocial related project. So therefore, these community will continue to suffer with those psychological issues. So they were not able to really start up with their livelihood, whatever the support offered by the government and non-governmental organization. So from there, the organization that I worked is a refugee organization from Netherlands, ZOA. So they had been working with these war-affected communities for a long time, and they had even worked with SHGs, but they also acknowledge that there is mental health needs, and these elements should be integrated with the existing model. So there we started developing the module. Objectives of this integrated model was to integrate psychosocial elements into SHG routine, to disseminate fundamental knowledge through SHG to their respective communities, to support each other and also identify those in need of professional support and refer them to the relevant service providers, focusing on psychosocial well-being, which makes these communities more resilient.
Oops.
Right. So this was the strategy we implemented that, and the thing is, though the need was very massive, the psychosocial needs, but the services and the professional available were very small numbers. So the project the model was developed with a consultation of psychosocial expert, and then this was disseminated to the staff and service providers in the main organization, and they trained the community leaders and mobilizers to disseminate that knowledge to the community. So the aim was to, the SHG has a mental health or psychosocial awareness to support their community. So this, when we capacitate these community members, they will be able to minimize those psychosocial effects of psychosocial illness or issues at the community level. That was the expected from this project. We can skip this one. If we need, we can come back. So the formation of self-help group, as some of them are from India, and even some other countries have the self-help group. The self-help group are basically focusing on financial empowerment of women, that the women who has common interest and living closely, those gather as a group, and then they meet weekly basis and save money, and then they share those money, lending those money as a loan to initiate some small entrepreneurship, and then some other educational or health related expenses. That was the basic function of a self-help group. And they also sometimes respond to the community issues where they live, like alcoholism and domestic violence. So this was the basic functions of a self-help group. So this project mainly targeted in north and east part of the Sri Lanka that massively affected by the civil war. So the main activity was that formation of SH new groups and strengthening existing group. So altogether, 1,000 SHG was targeted to disseminate this integrated model. So this is the process that we have to get the government approval to implement this project or this module. And then we have to communicate, or we have to get the support from the Grama Niladhari, who is in charge for a village. He is representing government, and then selection of suitable village that really need this support, and then the home visits to get those women, mobilize those women to form SHGs. So this is the routine activities that they gather in a common place, and they have 13 minutes to 1 hour meeting, and they sometimes share their issues with them. They support each others. These are some of the pictures from my will visit. The module development was so unique that we thought of the need should be identified first from the communities or from the villages that we target for this project. So first we collected, we made visit, and we had a focus group discussion with them, and we collected all the information, and then it was conceptualized, and we developed modules. Those modules are conflict management, power identity, communication, loan recovery, roadmap, and participatory decision making. The module framework was constituted with psychosocial well-being, organizational culture, and resilience. So the psychosocial well-being included social ecology, human capacity, cultural, and values. So what we heard from the community, that they should be connected, and they should be supported by the people around them. That is important part of their psychosocial well-being. And the human capacity was the physical and mental health of the person, as well as his or her knowledge and skill related to uh, handling these psychosocial issues. And even culture and the values that specific to the community is very important. So we should understand that in order to develop a module that really fit to that community. Organizational culture is means that though this SHE function as a group and there is a administrative body, a leader and treasurer, secretary. So sometime, you know, in our communities, we have class differences, caste differences that might impact on these dynamics, and sometimes so of how they treat each others, what are the words they use, whether it is discriminatory or the, you know, it's indicate power. So those are the things should be identified in order to, you know, create that healthy communication among them. So the resiliency means that the building relationship means that, as I said before, that some are even in the group, if though they identified as neighbors, they feel, you know, powerless, and some feel that some are controlled by some. So that should be really taken away, and then they should be empowered equally to contribute to the group and as well as individual development. So the principles we adopted, that adult learning principles and instructional design. You can move to the other slide. So adult learning principle was very, very important, that because those women we dealt with adults. So we can't take, you know, the module that really teaching them and, you know, making them feel that they don't know anything, and we make them feel we are expert. So in that way we recognize that that will not work with adult community. So it should be the, you know, very relevant to their experience, and they should be, you know, they should feel that to participate in that module conversation. So these principles were adopted when we developed this module. So instructional design that give them multiple choices, because adult learning that they will not, we can't expect those people to have really good in everything. So we had multiple choices, might be pictures, sometimes videos, sometimes those people can't read, so they can watch. So these kind of a multiple modes of access to this module, and multiple forms of engaging with the content, and then the multiple ways of showing how they learn this module. This is an example of that. So we found that stories that are very relevant to that community, so that it will open space to, you know, discuss their issues. So in every module, we had these three components focusing on administration process and practices, as we saw it in that organizational culture. So each module, they will see that where this administration issues identified in that module, and then they will identify the areas for psychosocial support for the members, and then finally they will identify the social issues. So this character, as he says, she's 35 years old, widow, and one child. She has own tailoring business, live with her ill mother and young brother who is an alcoholic. So there are multiple social issues put in this module. So they can see it in individual level and even the community level, what they can do for that. So implementation strategy, as I earlier slightly mentioned that. So the ZOA was the main organization, and then it is connected with the 5 organizations that are really close to the community. There we had 5 staffs, 3 staff with a social work bachelor's degree and 2 staff with a psychology degree, because we thought that that is very important to have those staff with that background. And then they selected the very suitable person to get this training first. This is a TOT, trainers of trainers. So first the staff train the selected community key person, and they disseminate this knowledge to the groups. So that was the structure. And also the time, 3 to 4 hours, because we can't take the full day, but these 3 to 4 hours could be braked according to the convenience of the group members. They can break it. So this is completely a community driven trainings we had. So this is what I explained this. One project coordinator, that was me, and then there were 5 districts, so 5 project officers connected with local organization and community. So the psychosocial coordinator trained these project officers, then they train community key persons, those who are identified for those psychosocial as a psychosocial first responders, and even the local community staff was trained. So they were with the community, but these were two-way communication. They will give the feedback, what works in the community, what not work in the community, then it will be modified according to the needs of the community. So these are the training. So training were organized wherever the community members can gather. It can be under the tree, or it can be near the temple, or their community halls. So it's organized by them. Then the trainer will go there and disseminate the module. So outcomes, what we found till now, the groups are multiplying, because one is the financial need, of course, because it's very hard to get the loan from the banks. There are many processes for these vulnerable women can't go and get those loan as they need it. So this was the main source, and they found that this is really a place they can come and relax, and they can cry out. They can share their vulnerability openly with their members. So, and then the internalization of the module. So even now, if we see those women, they remember those stories, and they really internalize those stories, and they say, yes, this is very helpful to help for them individually, means day-to-day life, and the person they meet in the community. And then these groups really create opportunity for entrepreneurships. They have small business that really help them. So for them, for that, they can get small loan from these groups. So we had an evaluation in 2022. Some of the evaluation findings says that these module were easy to understand and disseminate at the community level. So and then and then they found that these modules, the content of the module really helpful to really solve their practical issues that they face day-to-day life. So they found that conflict and management module was really helpful because as we gather as a group, we always have a conflict. So they said they found that these modules were very helpful for them to solve those. And then type of the support they receive, of course, as I said, they financially benefited from this group, and also they feel that the friendship among them, so that keep them long lasting as a group member in the group. So these are some of the photos for it shows that social cohesion and harmony. So they celebrate different festivals and they gather and they enjoy, because these women, throughout their life, they have so many struggles to overcome. These are the place they can really enjoy and have, some sort of happiness in their life. Some they have home gardening, so that's their livelihood, and they have some uh, uh, community activity, cleaning their village and keep away from these mosquitoes and other health issues. So replication. So as Kalanganai, I was thinking that working with women, and I also heard that they have SHGs. I don't know sometime whether they also have similar programs. So of course we have more similarities between the Indian Tamil community and Sri Lankan Tamil community. So this could be replicated to that population. So if they need these modules, I can share it with them happily, that they can, even if they want, we can train some keep people staff, those who can disseminate this module among the population. And even I found that here I work as a graduate research assistant. There is a project called Healthy Mind and Healthy Community. So they are also trying here that some communities here also living as, very close communities like Hispanic population. So they have really similar cultural practices like us. So this kind of modules can be replicated to those population and modified according to their cultural values and beliefs. And then we also found that it's not only for the grassroots level community, but it could be applied to the people who are working in the government and non-governmental organization, because those people are really eliminated from the government support. So it could be, really helpful for those population as well. And even these module facilitators were trained to develop new modules based on the needs of the community. So any subjects can be, put into the same structure and duplicated.
So, all right, are you able to take questions now? Okay, great. Okay. So thank you, everybody. So now I just open the floor for questions. I know there were some in the chat. Taylor, were you looking at the questions in the chat? Do you want to point out some?
Yeah, I do think that one of the questions was answered. It said, were both Tamil and Sinhala women in the SHGs? And someone else said no, only Tamil-speaking women. Is that correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was another question by Karen Kaiser, Professor Kaiser. Were the widows treated similarly to the widows living in India?
Yes, yes. It means that, yeah, they have stigma and they don't appear in the, occasions. And yes, they can't really communicate with women, no, men openly. So they have the similar experience as India.
If I may chime in here, just because, the Tamil population in the northern part of Sri Lanka has very similar cultural traits that you find among Tamil women in South India, in the southernmost part of, the state of Tamil Nadu, there are some commonalities. So pretty much widowed women in Tamil Nadu and widowed Tamil women in northern Sri Lanka share similar cultural traits dominated by patriarchal thinking. Thank you.
Someone asked, in terms of mental health related problems, who are the experts who assist these women in question?
So in general, or it's specific to this the project? In general, in the public hospitals, they have a psychiatric unit, and even in the district government office, they have a office called social services. So there they have counselors and social service officers. They have the direct the communication with these communities, but for the district, they have one. So that is not really, they are not really able to cover these population needs. So now some non-governmental organization, they are working closely with the communities. They have volunteers at the community level. So even government is encouraging those kind of a volunteers so that these officials can have a support from these volunteers, so they can refer to these hospitals or the district office psychiatric unit.
Sorry, I was just going to also just share your slide that you created about your model. And so maybe the question was also based on your model here that do you want to is this was the question that these are the experts who are here at the bottom, right? That went up. So okay, so what you want to know who these people were at the very bottom, the psychosocial consultants who developed and integrated the material, right?
Yes, so this is the strategy for development of this module, but exactly the same system exists that we have psychiatrists and doctors, those who specially offering psycho issues related with psychosocial issues, and then we have a counselors. So they are the professionals. So we have very less number of them, and then we have non-governmental organization staff who are trained in, my counseling and psychosocial support. Then it goes. So that is I think this ISAC model. I didn't put it here. So they also targeting that, widening these services. We have to have community level first responders who can identify the person with psychosocial issue and refer to this system. So that is the aim of one of the aims of this project.
If I may just add to that, the idea of mental health and community mental health in particular, is gaining momentum. And I'm speaking it from a South Indian state perspective that I'm familiar with. What used to be a taboo topic traditionally among families is now becoming much more visibly open. And in particularly with this group of Tamil women in Sri Lanka who were impacted by the war-related ravages, I think the self-help group and other psychiatric support services that Shamila was alluding to really go a long way in making sure that they do not, have, more repeated instances of reliving through the trauma and get as much support as possible. So the idea of taking mental health to the communities is gaining momentum all across the board.
Thank you. And there's just a follow-up question related to the other question. So is the integration model in terms of social work methods or multidisciplinary collaborations?
So in social work perspective, it's a multidisciplinary collaboration. So that what we call integrated, that so because the SHG had only financial and social other components, so they were lacking in psychosocial components, so we integrated. So here all multidisciplinary team work together as a holistic, team to intervene these communities, because we acknowledge that we can't work in one sector because we will not get the expected outcome. So it should be a very holistic approach.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Professor Coyne, I see your hand is up.
Yes. Hi, Shamila, Carol. I'm fascinated the minute I saw the topic of this talk. I wanted to come. I've been looking at special SHGs for many, many years. I'm a group worker predominantly in social work. And although SHGs were part of the early days of group work and social work, they have much of our stuff is about professionally led groups. So I and colleagues from all over internationally, including in India, have interviewed these SHGs, particularly those that our colleagues in the field have identified as exemplars. And so we've studied this. They were all different, but we found that there were some common elements, some principles, preliminary principles, which I'd love to offline talk to you a little bit more about and see whether or not you found these in your groups. But the one thing that I'm not, and I could have missed it. I had to answer my doorbell for a moment. Could have missed it. But to what extent you have a lot of people involved with this? To me, by the very essence, SAGs are not necessarily self-organizing, but self-regulating. They have their own roles. They have their own goals. Key, absolutely key. That they take, what's available to them and they turn it into their own dynamics and so on, and achievements. So what is the ongoing role of the trainers, who I assume are professionals in some way, or they could be members of other groups that I'm not sure about? So the extent to which there is professional consultation available to the groups, which I think is a good thing, of any kind of profession, but also that the groups truly are self-organizing once they get started, and can then reach out when they have a problem, so to speak. Or so long question, Shamila. And I have one last thing to say, because I do hope that you will, my guess is a doctoral student, maybe a graduate by now, that you're interested in publications. And I think that the Journal of Social Work with Groups would be really interested in this. And I'm happy to chat with you. I'm on the editorial board of that.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
please.
So we ensure the sustainability of this project. That is why we really, connected with the local organization. They will work with this community for, long time. And then the training those leaders in those SHGs, so that they will be a member of, whether they will be a member of this SHG, or if they leave the group, they will carry those knowledge in the community. So in that way, we implemented this project, because ZOA really phased out middle of the project, because they are really targeted to work with the war affected population. So we were in the developing phase. So they said, now no more war, and phase out. So in the middle, we had to hand over this project to the local NGOs. So we trained those local NGO staff because they are also part of that community. They come from that community. So then and simultaneously we train these SHG members. When the ZOA left, we had really 25,000 SHG members receive these 3 modules.
Wow.
So it was like the staff train the key person, and key person train their members in the group. So that is how the sustainability of the project was ensured. So now they are transferring this knowledge to other members. So, and they have this module in a candy cards. So it is laminated, so they can have it, and whenever they want, they can really discuss about it. And the what is the learning principle that we adopted, those stories, once we discuss about the story, they remember all the time that character, and then they have all the new knowledge that they learned from the this psychological content, and they remember, they could able to relate it with that. So that was helpful for us to keep this going.
Thank you. I see Professor Subramaniam, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving this opportunity, and give me a space to record my observation. During her, I'm Dr. Jeevasudan. I'm attached to the Department of Sociology, University of Jaffna, as a senior academic. During Shamila's presentation, he mentioned that the government did not allow during the initial stage of resettlement of displaced population, the government did not allow psychosocial intervention programs among the affected communities. The reason for not allowing a psychosocial intervention program was the government feared about the potential transmission of, war-related secrets to the international communities through the psychosocial workers and psychosocial, support providers. Because in the beginning of the resettlement, soon after the, termination of the war, there was a very strict, monitoring and vigilance implemented by the imposed by the government in order to prevent any potential sharing information about the war, and also the people who affected by the war, and also some unpleasant experience that people had during the war. Because if I'm not mistaken, nearly 15,000 people were handed over to the military, Sri Lankan military. And now still they don't know the whereabouts of their loved ones. They just handed over them to the military people, military higher-ups, the higher level of military, high-ranking military people, like former freedom fighters, their close family members, children of freedom fighters, and also their wives, their husbands, both male and female combatants surrendered to the military. And, there was a huge protest against this humanitarian issue in the international forum, especially during this Geneva Convention. Sri Lankan government had to face different, challenges and criticism from different directions. Therefore, it at any cost, it tried to prevent, sharing information from the war-affected community through, different channels, like psychosocial workers, psychosocial support providers, something like that. Yeah, that's what I just wanted to
very important
Yeah,
contextual information. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we have a few more minutes. I just wanted to open the floor to anyone else who hasn't spoke. Maybe Father Kolundai, I don't know if you have anything that you would like to share, any reflections from the presentation. Go ahead and unmute first.
Thank you very much. The presentation was insightful. I really enjoyed, and I've also realized that local communities and even local initiatives are also being embraced and incorporated in this model. Then I also want to comment on the partnership between researchers and also local authorities in transferring some of these models to be put into practice in social work, which is also rare from, especially my country. It's very rare. Academics, they just come up with models, but the practical field is missing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Father Kolundai.
Yes, it's very interesting to listen to Shamila, and I felt one with her, when she narrated the whole module and the people's life and the struggles they undergo. I was able to resonate with her. And in the beginning in Kalangarai, there was a group of counselors helping the victims of tsunami. And many lost their husbands and wives. So I think this is the need of the hour, that we have to look into this holistic perspective and give focus on also the social counseling. So this is a good model. I can take it up in our ministry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think we're at time. I just want to share that our next presentation is on March 21st at 11:30. Our presentation in March 21st will be Awakening Entrepreneurship in Women, Empowerment and Sustainable Livelihoods by Awake in Karnataka India, excuse me. So you're welcome to join us at that time. The registration information is on the Friends of Kalangarai website. So we thank you so much, Shamila, for this excellent presentation of your work. And we will definitely reach out to you with questions. And so thank you, everyone. And if you can, please fill out the evaluation survey that Taylor has put in the chat. This is will help us in planning future events. Go ahead, Professor Mandayam.
Thank you, Professor Nuransky. I just wanted to respond to a comment by Ms. Karamba regarding social work entrepreneurship. So if you're interested in knowing more about the world of social work innovation and entrepreneurship, I'm happy to introduce you to the group that exists online called Social Work Innovation Network, where we are discussing all the ideas of how to empower vulnerable population groups with entrepreneurship related skills. So feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm interested.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good evening or a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Yes, Taylor. Yes.